Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Get Real Show. We are here with Pete, who is here to talk about men's mental health and overall just encompassing mental health. So thank you so much for coming on and coming to Get Real.
It's been a long time coming. I feel like we
Yeah.
met over a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
and at a low no party, exchanged contact information. Have been talking back and forth, but finally made it happen. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you do a lot of content creation, we were just talking about, and really give a glimpse into your everyday life. And I've been following you for a while. I love how you do stuff on being a pilot and then your workouts and all of that. How do you feel like that really came about? And what is your end goal with that?
How it came about was I was bored and kind of didn't have direction. I was probably a couple months after a pretty bad breakup, and I think I fell into the trap. I'm a millennial. What most millennials do: get on their phone and doom scroll, right?
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram, you name it. I was doing it, and with that comes lack of motivation, lack of discipline. I wasn't going to the gym much, wasn't getting outside much, wasn't socializing as much as I should have been. And I decided, hey, I need to keep busy somehow. I saw a few pilot content creators out there, and I said, hey, that's what I do. I think I'm half decent with my creativity and my personality. Let me give this a shot. So I did, and kind of had a little bit of a nice uptick start on TikTok. And I said, hey, this was pretty fun. Let me keep doing this. People seem to like it, enjoy it. And I figured, let me throw some of my personality in there and see where we can go. As far as end goal, no real end goal. My job, first and foremost, is flying, and I love it. I'm really, really, really fortunate to not only have my job be my passion, but it pays the bills as well. So I'm really grateful for that. And yeah, just kind of along for the ride on this little roller coaster we call life.
That probably has a massive positive impact on your mental health, the fact that you love your job, because so many people in this day and age cannot say that. So that's almost, it's sad, the reality of it, that it's almost rare to hear someone say, I love my job.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I never thought about it like that. But to piggyback on that, I remember years and years ago when I was flying for my ex airline, I this also had gone through a bad breakup, and my mom was talking to my mom on the phone, and she was always like, "Oh, I don't know if you should be going flying right now. Maybe you're not in the best mental space." And it's kind of taboo, mental health and flying, believe it or not. It's a really big issue that's kind of happening in the aviation world as we speak. But back to my story, my mom was like, hey, I don't know if you should be going flying right now. You got a lot of people's lives at hand. I'm like, in your hands. Like, oh, no, I understand. But believe it or not, driving to the airport, getting out of my car, having the uniform on, walking through the terminal was like the only relief I had, where I got to focus, lock in, and really gave me purpose. So it was the complete opposite effect. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to work and screw what my job is. It was the opposite. At that time, I was so focused, so locked in what I had to do as a captain of 185 plus people in the back of my airplane. It really gave me purpose and actually helped me overcome that bad breakup that I was going through at the time.
Wow. Wow. That's really interesting because I feel like I'm the same way where I need structure and discipline to keep my mental health well and actually feel like I'm being part of a bigger picture, contributing to society in some capacity, where I feel like now the general consensus is going in the way of like, let's work remote for our mental health and let's like do less, do less, do less, and to each their own, like whatever formula works the best for the person. But I just feel like sometimes being in a routine and having structure and having a purpose that's bigger than just our own feelings at the time is so important.
I agree. Yeah, no, definitely. Well said. I mean, for me, it's, you talked about the fitness and some of the stuff I post. I don't necessarily do it for views or clicks or likes or brand deals. I working out is like brushing my teeth. I have to do it. It's non-negotiable. I mean, if you
Yeah.
follow me, I'm always
I love
saying
that.
it's
Yeah.
non-negotiable. I mean, I always get messages online. Oh, how are you so motivated to go for a 5-mile run after your 6-hour flight, or go to the gym for 2 hours when you've been up at 4 a.m. and flying till 8 p.m. Like, I'm not motivated. I don't
Yeah.
want to do it, but it's non-negotiable. Like, it's a contract and an agreement I made with myself that I'm going to get this done no matter what. And that structure, that game plan has helped me to be in the best shape mentally, physically, and spiritually I've ever been in my entire life.
Wow. Yeah, I love how you always do the non-negotiable on your stories, because I think just getting in that consistency, even like doing that little shtick there, like I was doing for a while every day when I was going running, I was filming myself saying like blessed, grateful, thankful. And it didn't matter if it was the nicest day of the year or like pouring rain and freezing, like blessed, grateful, thankful, because some people don't have 2 legs to run on. Some people just aren't in the place or the country, or like they're more concerned with feeding their family at home when they're 12 years old than getting to just freely go for a run at not any given moment, but any time of the day, basically. And I think that it's so important that a lot of times we can get caught up in the little things that we just have to remember, like getting to work out is an opportunity. So many people think of it as a chore or a punishment.
It's a privilege.
But it is a privilege, essentially. Like, you can't work out if you're in a scenario where you're like on your last penny trying to feed your family, or you have a sick child that's dying, or anything of the sort. Like, we're lucky that we're able to go to the gym or go running. And I have never in my life regretted a workout.
Never.
What I have done is regret it not working out.
Yep.
And then you could feel like crap. Maybe you just think, oh, like I definitely could have gone. I wish I pushed myself. I've never been more than 5 minutes into a workout without being like, thank God I came on this. Thank God I'm out here. So it's really just getting yourself out there.
Yep. No, so I set goals for myself every year, and my big physical goal for 2024 is the New York City Marathon. I'm running that in November, and I'm not a runner. Have never run a race in my life, but I'm doing 26.2 this November. And on my runs that I'm currently training on, where I'm like, I can't get this done. I literally think of just what you said. I'm like, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people right now that are like, would look at me and be like, you lucky bastard. Like, you get to go run today, you know? Like, I'm not in jail. I'm not trying to feed a family. I'm not unemployed. I have my health. I have my family, my friends. I have so much in this life to be grateful for. Like you said, some people only have 2 legs to walk on, let alone go run 26 miles. So I literally use those messages, and I'm so grateful to have what I have to be able to, turn my blessings into good things.
Exactly. And even I was just thinking, sometimes there are people without 2 legs, without any legs, that are still out there.
Oh yeah,
and then
you
it's
see
like,
them on
come
these
on,
yeah, exactly.
like, you're not going to get out there when there's people with cancer, with terminal illness, with no legs, that are still out there doing it.
100%.
Like, it's unbelievable. I did something this spring with some coworkers. We did a 75-day challenge, and it was mine. You got to make your own commitments. I had to run every day. And I had situations where it was like, you get home at work at 10 o'clock at night, and then like a couple times I even would take like a 30-minute nap and get back up.
That's wild.
To go out. And
At like
it's
11 p.m.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And every time, like, I did not want to do it. Exactly what I said, 5 minutes in, I would feel incredible and have this amazing experience. And I think that really taught me, like, sometimes you do need to rest, and like, you can't do that the entire year straight. But it does show you that, like, whatever you think you're capable of, if you think, like, I think we sometimes get into these thought patterns drilled into our heads, like, oh, I'm too tired, but you're not too tired. Like, if you had to do it, you can.
Absolutely.
So it's just ripping that Band-Aid off and actually, like, forcing your brain. And I think that's actually incredible how powerful our brains are, that we can basically talk ourselves out of an old thought pattern. And that's what my personal opinion is. Like, having depression, having anxiety. These are just thought patterns that are wired into our brains that we can essentially try to dig ourselves out of.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm not the best person to be an example of like, you always have time, because I'm not married. I don't have kids. I'm not trying to pay a mortgage. So I get people have full plates, but the truth is you always have time.
Yeah.
I mean, you just said it yourself perfectly. Like 75 days in a row, I had to run. It'd be 10 o'clock at night. The last thing anyone and their mother is doing at that time is going for a run, but you did it.
Yeah.
You got it done, right? It was non-negotiable. You're like, I'm freaking doing it. So everyone has it. I mean, one of my friends is training for the New York City Marathon too. 2 kids, full-time job, wife, house, the whole shebang. He wakes up at 4:30 in the morning and does his training. Like it's possible.
Yep.
It's absolutely possible. I couldn't do it, but I couldn't do that, but he's making it, he's getting it done. So
I just saw a public speaker in the business world where he was saying the same thing. He had multiple children, a wife, and very, very successful at work. And he said that was his number one secret to success, was running every day at 4 a.m.
There you go.
And he said that like all of the millions, everything he did was down to that 4 a.m. run, because he said basically like it was just routine. It wasn't even a thought that I can't do this. And then you go apply that to business, and
this is
the
easy.
rest is history. Yeah.
Any $1 million deals. If you're getting up at 4 to run here,
Yeah.
$1 million deals are easy.
Yeah, call isn't
Yeah.
doing much. Exactly. But I really think it's interesting the fact that you wanted to come and talk about mental health. And I think you're really breaking the stereotype of like somebody would walk by you on the street and think, wow, that person has it all. Like, you're very charismatic. You have a job you love. You have all these things going for you in life. You have your fitness, your health. But at the end of the day, you've still struggled with your mental health. How do you feel like that stereotype has even affected your mental health, and what has your journey been with it?
That's a great question. It's funny. I wrote once that like what's something that you're passionate about, want to share more about, and I said like, hey, men's mental health, especially men's mental health. It's kind of like taboo to talk about, but there's so many people that mention it, but I feel like it's still not talked about, if that makes sense. So it's like, hey, it's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, or it's Suicide Prevention Month, and these celebrities and influencers and brands will get behind it, but then like no one comes out and like actually shares like their stories, or at least that I don't hear much about. I know people do. I'm just saying in general. So yeah, I said it to that one time we're on a rooftop. Strong men need help too, So yeah, I'm blessed to have 6'4" genetics and be strong in the gym and be able to run a couple miles. And like you said, I've been fortunate to be casted for some silly TV shows. And like you said, if you looked at my social media, this guy has it all. But the truth is like I get hurt. I get down in the dumps. I get anxiety. I've been, sick in bed with my mental health and not been able to go do things that I wanted to do. So it's a journey that I'm still learning about, but the more I kind of go through life and realize that I am really fortunate to be blessed with the things I've been blessed with. And whether it's my physical health, my mental health, spiritual health, I always want to be able to talk about it, and note to other people out there that whatever they're going through, it's not the first time, right? Like everyone has gone through some sort of depression. And if you want to call it depression, again, in my industry, in the aviation world, saying you have depression is a very taboo subject, because pilots can't fly if they're depressed. But the truth is, there's just at my company alone, there's 6,000 pilots. Saying that none of them get depressed is the stupidest thing in the world. Of course, they have wives or husbands that leave them, they get divorced, they have kids that get sick, they have parents that get ill and die. Of course they get depressed. Of course they get anxious. Of course they have panic in their lives. So I'm hoping that the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, gives us more grace to talk about it more, and open up and seek help, because that's the big thing right now in the industry, is us talking about it to a counselor could potentially get us our flying wings taken away, which is really messed up, right? And I get it. People, it's hard for me to even talk about, because you're a family of 4 flying down from New York to Orlando. You don't want to know that your pilots are depressed. Yeah. The truth is, 1 out of 10, 2 out of whatever the numbers are, they are.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is someone just got dumped. Someone just lost a ton of money in the stock or whatever it is they are. So being able to talk about it and get help and be able to still do your job, I think is super important. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
No, I think that's amazing.
But mental health is something that is really important to me, and I love to share with whoever wants to listen. So again, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think so many things of what you just said are so important. First of all, I think the fact that men's mental health is a topic that I think you hit the nail on the head, that we do say, oh, it's Men's Mental Health Month. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't had that many conversations with men about their mental health, other than I've had a lot of people talk about sobriety on the show. That seems like a topic that sometimes men might feel more comfortable talking about because it's like a specific subject, but just like every man in your life, how are they doing? You know, like, especially too, I think men are supposed to carry the weight of the world and carry all these responsibilities. We just expect them to. And then I believe in today's age, there's like this backlash from society, almost like anti-man. Like sometimes it goes a little over the top, where it's like, they're humans too. Like, we're all human beings. Let's not forget that everybody struggles and that we all have different areas of our life that we struggle in, and we all have different strong suits, I think, and that's what makes the difference in men and women amazing. But so many people say, oh, mental health, but then would be the first person to like not care about a man's mental health. I've seen that firsthand, which is crazy, especially to the narrative of just like, oh, they're just like a white man, like how could they have a problem? And it's like, every single person has a problem. It doesn't matter your background, your gender, your upbringing, your socioeconomic status. Everybody struggles.
100%.
And I think that comparing each other's struggle or trauma of their life or feelings in any way is just detrimental to ourselves, because then you're just trying to create victim mentality where only your problems matter. But then this man, his problems don't actually matter. So I think it's very important to actually talk about what men's mental health is.
100%. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a social media audio comes up on my TikTok and my Instagram reels every once in a while, but it's like men's mental health, and basically the music goes and it's a bunch of guys getting clipped, and they're basically like saying like, I can call someone if I'm not feeling, I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's like, who can you call when you're feeling down and when you're not feeling your best and you're feeling depressed or anxious or scared and lonely. And they like interviewed all these guys, and everyone's like, I can call someone, and it's so true, because I'm so blessed to have 5, 6, 10 like best guy friends who, will stand with me one day on the altar and be my best men. But calling them at 3:00 at night when I don't want to get out of bed and my thoughts are racing and I don't feel good mentally or spiritually. It's like, I don't want to bother them, or this is not what they want to hear. And it's strange. It's a strange feeling, because I'll tell them everything about my life, but then having someone to really let your guard down to can be a challenge, know? And I know for a fact that I've never received phone call from any of my friends. Like you said, everyone has struggles. I don't know who they're calling. They're not calling me. They're not calling my other friends. So it's a lot of people just kind of deal with it. A lot of men just kind of like kind of what you said, were raised, at least in my generation, it was like, suck it up. It's not a big deal. You don't need to talk to anyone. Therapies for babies, whatever the word you want to use. And that's all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's all bullshit. We all struggle, like you said. None of it matters, and it's detrimental to humankind to say, oh, well, he has a good job and is white, so he shouldn't have problems. It's bullshit. It's same. It's anyone. You said it better than I could ever say it. So yeah, I wish it was talked about. Again, I think it's brought up a lot, but it's not talked about a lot,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Even I think that's a good point is like when I was younger, I, especially like teenage years, I had all these friends, but I never actually was vulnerable ever with anyone. It was very like surface level friendships or like problems that like surface level problems essentially. You never really got deep or got real with people. But now today I have the most incredible women in my life where I can get very vulnerable with, and I've actually had these conversations with my girlfriends. Like for the most part, men don't get to experience that because that is kind of the society that everyone, like, you might have these really good guy friends, but it's just not a thing yet. At least I have seen, I feel like over the years, guys get a better group or maybe start to introduce these topics, but for the most part it is very like taboo to talk about mental health with your guy friends. Like it's not really things that, and I've heard a lot of guys even say, well, like, oh, guys don't talk about that with their friends, or guys wouldn't say that too. Like it's just a different type of friendship, which I think makes it that much harder because you don't even have, like, a lot of times when I'm going through something and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to see a therapist right now, but you have your girlfriends to talk about it with, and that is kind of a form of therapy. When you guys just don't really have that to lean on.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've brought in some things up to some really close guy friends before in the past, and either the advice I've received was terrible, or in the sense of, like, I'll give you an example. Like I was going through, like I mentioned earlier, a really bad breakup, and it had me really down in the dumps. And, you know, a reaction and response I would get from like a best friend would be like, well, dude, there's like, you have tons of girls in your contacts, like just like go out and like date someone else. I'm like, what? Like that doesn't make any sense. That's not what I want to do, dude. Like I'm really upset right now with what's going on. And then the other reaction is just like this, like, ewy, like I don't want to hear what you have to say about like your emotions right now. Like, let's just go to the gym. You know, they don't say that like that, but it's like you can kind of get it, vibe, you know, it's like, oh, like you're just being like sad boy. Like, well, like, let's just go to the gym and like hang out. Like, I don't want to actually talk about it though, you know? And, all my friends will attest to this. I'm like the most emotional guy in the friend group. Like I cry the most. I have the wave of emotions the most out of all of them. And I do like talking about it because I think it's important because, you know, one person may hear this podcast or hear a message I may share on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and be like, oh, well, if he's going through that and he seems to have it all, and I'm watching his clips, then it's totally normal for me to be going through this. And, you know, reach out to someone close. You know, I pray, faith is a really important part of my life. Church every Sunday, grew up a Catholic, still practicing. And every night before bed when I pray for those people who are in a dark spot and might not make it to tomorrow. And I pray to God that give them the courage to reach out to God, to a friend, to a family member, to the hotline that's now 989. Is that correct? Is that the suicide hotline?
I have to check.
Yeah, it's something. That. I think it's 989. But like, there's so many people out there that are struggling, men and women, and it's like any positive message and letting people know that it's okay to call someone and cry and share your message is really important.
Absolutely. And I just heard someone say, I just thought at the end there when you said that it's okay, like I just got really good advice from a friend of mine that whatever's going on right now, that it is okay is the best advice possible. Like it's not going to be okay, it's okay right now. And I think sometimes realizing that when we're extremely sad, when we're anxious, depressed, feeling these emotions, that it's okay to be in that state, and that doesn't mean you're going to be in that state forever, but it's okay to actually feel that. And I think when you try to pretend it's not there and just either coast over it or cope in a way that you're avoiding it, in some way, whether it be through drugs, alcohol, exercise, even sometimes you might have a positive outlet, but you're still avoiding those emotions, that's not really the way to work through it. And it's just going to be there tenfold in the end. And that it is the human experience, and it is okay to have these feelings. And I think a lot of times with these labels that people will say, like, oh, well, that person has depression, that person has anxiety. But like, being depressed can just be a state that could just be an hour, 2 hours, a month, 6 months. Like, it might just be a part of your journey, but it's not who you are. And I think that has really helped me. Like, you are not these things. They're just emotions you feel, and everyone feels them. And some people feel more deeply, or might get caught in it, or might not be going about it the correct way. They might be going about it the correct way, but it's just something that takes longer to deal with. But that's okay, and that it's going to be all right on the other side. And I always try to remember, and I'm sure you can relate with the exercise stuff. Like, when I'm running, sometimes, like, I do a lot of endurance stuff. Sometimes mile 2 might be horrific, and then mile 17 you feel incredible. And
17, you do 17.
like, that when you're in that, it's not, that's like the beauty of life, that it's not always going to be happy.
Absolutely.
And it's not always going to be sad. That if you didn't have, at least for myself, if I didn't have those lows, I wouldn't be as grateful for the times you actually feel good, for the times you're having a laugh with your friends and family, and it's the perfect weather and the sun setting on the water, and you think about how hard the hard times were, and that they did something for you. It is my belief that it does some character development. It's there to teach you some type of lesson, and that pain isn't always necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely something that we should be able to communicate and lessen that burden when we're going through.
Yeah, I really like what you said about depressed, because it's just like again, I keep using the word taboo, but that word, like you said, you can be depressed for an hour. You know, depression doesn't mean psychiatrist, pills, loony, you know, going away or to a loony bin or whatever the right term is, or going to therapy or whatever. Like, you can be depressed for 3 hours and then it go away, you know? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but no, I completely agree with what you're saying. And I wouldn't know I was in the best time of my life, mentally, physically, and spiritually, if I hadn't experienced those lows before, right? Like you just said it. I was so down. I have video and I filmed myself that no one will ever see, but like crying on my couch, weeping, being like, this is the worst time ever. And I watch back that video every once in a while to remind myself, like, look how far you've come. You know, like, it's pretty, it sounds silly, but like, it's pretty cool. For me, at least, I smile every time I watch it, because I'm like, wow. Like, I remember that day so specifically. I was on the couch for like 5, 6, 7+ hours in my apartment. I didn't leave. I didn't speak to anyone. And an acquaintance of mine, this girl that I had just started talking to from like a party, she was like, let's grab dinner in like the West Village. And I was like, no, like, I don't want to. Like, I was just like doom scrolling and watching TV. I was so low. And she's like, and she knew I was like, God reached out to her. Some higher power was like, get this guy to come out, because she kept bugging me. She's like, just me and you, quick Italian, let's do it. And I like, she's like, you'll feel better. Come on. And I finally put on like clothes and got out my apartment, and like instantly felt like a little better. And I still remember that day so vividly. I was like, that's crazy that I was in that spot, but now I'm at this point where, like I said earlier, like, I'm in the best mental, physical, and spiritual health and well-being in my entire life right now.
And I think it's so important, the lesson from that is, like, it is okay to feel those feelings, and everyone's going to feel those feelings, but you have to choose to do something about it, and you have to fight it. And that is something I think that gets a little bit lost these days, is that for whatever reason, I don't know, because their doctors just want to prescribe something right away, or they want to, like, the easy way out is not always the best answer, that you have to actually take steps to better your mental health when you're in that place. And it might take a week, it might take a year, but when you get to the other side, then you will be in such an amazing spot, and you will be able to look at that video of yourself crying and be able to smile and think, wow, like I got myself out of here, or God helped me get out of here, but I'm not there
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. I mean, we're not groundbreaking anything here crazy, but I mean, physical exercise, the first, like just getting, I tell people, you don't have to go for 17-mile runs. You don't have to go to the gym and bench press 225. Go for a walk.
Yep.
Get outside, get some, just lay in the
Yeah.
grass, like little silly things. I mean, different speakers and I've heard on different platforms say it before, but it's so true, and it's worth repeating that, like, before you go see that therapist, I'm pro therapy, don't get me wrong, but before you go see that therapist or that psychiatrist or try that pill, to try to, to maybe get you out of that funk that you're in, or the depression you're feeling, try to do it yourself, and like surround yourself. It's easier said than done. That's why I don't want to like make it sound so easy. It's not.
Yeah.
And it takes time, it takes effort, but set your alarm for, if you've been sleeping in till noon, set your alarm for 10 a.m. tomorrow, and promise yourself, make it non-negotiable, that you're going to get outside at 10 a.m. and go for a 15-minute walk. Everyone can walk for 15 minutes. If you can't walk, crawl, right? Like whatever it takes, like just do it. Stop making excuses. And those little improvements will add up, and you'll see improvement. So you'll compound these successes, and you'll be so grateful that you did.
Yeah, I love that, the compounding the successes, because it is sometimes just one little thing at a time, and then you don't even see the progress until you're there.
No, absolutely.
And if you can get up, you can, or if you can look up, you can get up, essentially. And it's exactly that, like just taking the first step is what you need to do. And it's not, I think the same thing. It's not that I'm like, oh, it's so easy, just go do this. Like I empathize with it because I've been there, and I think it's, again, human experience that we've all been there, but what are you going to do about it is the key. But I really like that you've mentioned that your religion has played a large role in all of this. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's so important, the mental, physical, and spiritual health, to really have, to me, to be 100% healthy.
Yeah. Going back to what I had talked about, I had gone through a bad breakup. I was in a bad place in my life and just didn't feel like myself. So I leaned on a couple things, and one of them was physical health, the exercise and getting out and going to the gym. And then the other thing I leaned on big time was my faith, my relationship with God, and being a Christian. I had always gone to church, but kind of like every once in a while. I wasn't really religious with it, pun intended. But I started going every Sunday. I started attending adult like Bible studies on Thursdays during the week. I went pretty hardcore in it. I cut drinking. I went maybe TMI. I went like completely celibate and like didn't do anything that would give me like some sort of satisfaction on like the easy way out, I guess, for lack of a better term. And my friends were like, dude, you're going a little too, I probably went a little bit too hardcore with a lot of the stuff. I'll spare you the details, but, anyway, going back to the point of going to church and finding my relationship with God, that's my therapy. So I have been to a therapist before. But this go around, I didn't really click with anyone. So I gave that up pretty quick and, entered the church and really found, a relationship with God. And, I've brought in friends with me to church that have wanted to go. I've brought in first dates to church that the girls have been like, I want to go. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. It's free. Anyone can come. Yeah. I always tell people that. They're like, can we come with you? I'm like, yeah, I can never going to tell anyone no, but I'll weep in there. That's every Sunday when I go. There's times where I'll be crying, and it's good. It's good tears. It's just like my therapy. It's my release. Like I give up my powers to a higher being. And that could be God for some people in the church. It could be whatever religion or spiritual power. I'm not here to judge, and I don't have all the answers, but for me, that's what it is. And I have really deepened that connection, that relationship with my faith and with God. And like I said, it's gotten me to the best place I've ever been in my life. So why stop? You know, I'll add one more thing. I read the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I didn't mean to call him Matt. We're not personal friends by any means. But one of the things I learned from that book was, and I've started doing this in my own life, is people will write down, like, when they're in a bad place, they'll start like journaling, like, okay, what do I need to do to get out of this? What do I need to do to get out of this? Like, stop scrolling social media, go to whatever it is. He said, hey, when you're in good high places, people kind of say, oh, I don't need a journal anymore. I don't need a prayer anymore. Like I'm feeling great. Right.
Yeah.
But his thing was, write down when you're in like the best mood and the best shape, like write down what you're doing so that if you start to kind of fall, you can look back at what you were doing when you were so happy and high on life.
Yeah.
So I started doing that as well. And church was a big thing. I was praying every night. I was reading the Bible like 10, 15, 20 minutes every morning. But then things would happen and I'd go back to that list. I'm like, okay, what am I missing? And that was one of the things. I'm like, well, I stopped reading the Bible. I wasn't praying before bed. And I realized, I was like, when I don't do the maintenance, for lack of a better term, to keep my spiritual health alive, I kind of slip. So it's something that I really benefited from that book. And yeah, I'm really happy to say that my relationship with God today is stronger than it's ever been.
That's great. No, I think I very much can relate to a lot of that. I feel like without the spiritual aspect, that it just still doesn't feel complete. Like, you can go to the gym and you can practice your mental health and see a therapist, but without having like some sort of faith in something. It doesn't have to be. I was raised Catholic too, and it's funny, I actually tried going to like non-denominational Christian churches. I tried all these other churches. I ended up just back at Catholic Mass because it just, to me, was not only just the relationship with God and being at the Catholic Mass, but it also is like a sense of nostalgia and just having, maybe it's the routine again, or the
structure,
consistency of it. It just seems very familiar and almost connects myself with like my inner child, and my younger self is watching the same thing I've always watched growing up. So I definitely love that. And that's funny. I've never read that book or even heard of it, but I have a notes app that when I start to slip and feel not good, I have just questions that it's like 10 questions. Have you? And it's like, have you called a friend? Have you gone on a run? Have you prayed today? Have you whatever? Because it is so easy to be on top of the world. And especially for myself, like, that's just how I am and the type of person I am, that you can be on top of the world and then 2 seconds later you're feeling very down. So then
yeah, trust me, I know that feeling very well.
You can revert back to that and be like, you know what, because that just holds yourself accountable and takes yourself out of the feelings, and more like, sometimes it is just almost like mathematical, or like being a robot, where it's like, have I implemented these steps? Like, it could just be as simple as that. It's not always. I think we can get lost in our feelings sometimes, where it doesn't have to be this. It feels so much bigger than it is in that moment. And if we just snap out of it and take one of those steps, that we can essentially get our mental health back to where it's supposed to be. But I definitely think too, with what you said, with like, taking the easy way out sometimes does not get you the best mental health, with stuff like drinking, with hookup culture, with all of this. Like, I think sometimes people will be like, oh, I'm really depressed right now, as they're like juuling, going out every night, engaging in random hookups, and then it's like, oh, I feel really lost and empty, when the steps you're taking are just not matching where you want to be. And obviously I've been there, so I get it 100%. But I know you said you cut alcohol out of your life for the most part.
Yeah.
What has that looked like for you?
It's been great. I mean, alcohol was probably like the last thing I cut out. The first thing was, you kind of mentioned it, with like the hookup culture, especially here in New York City, and all the dating apps and how accessible it is, with Tinder and Bumble and Hinge and just New York City in general. I was in that vicious cycle of waking up, having done whatever or met whoever, and then literally that morning being the lowest place I've ever been in my life, right? Such a high of being drunk and, maybe meeting a new companion and being like, this is the best night ever. And then literally 5 hours later, waking up being like, I feel horrible and I hate myself right now.
Yep.
So that was like one of the first things I cut. But going back to the alcohol, I've always been like, I call it like a social drinker, but I think doctors would call it like borderline alcoholism, because I would be drinking 12, 15 drinks a night easy, right? And I could stop whenever I wanted, but I always joke with people, like one of my favorite pastimes is getting really fucked up with my friends. Like I loved it. I love being drunk with my friends. They would agree I'm a fun, happy, loud, fun drunk. So I would do that. But again, the next day I'd feel miserable about it. But the real big cutting out drinking was, I was on this little TV show, and I unfortunately had to watch back in HD 4K on national television with millions of people. And people really relate to this, because when you're drunk, you think you're a certain way. And there's really no evidence of it, of how you were at whatever bar you were at. Maybe some of your friends take some videos or Snapchats or whatever, and it's 2 seconds long and it's deleted forever. Mine was streaming on Hulu for months at a time. I'm like, holy, like that's what I look like. Yeah. I hated it. It was the lights are on, but no one's home. And I absolutely hated it. I didn't really act any crazy or different. It wasn't the acting. It was just like, I would stare myself at this empty soul. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, that's what you look like? You look terrible. Like, I hated it. I really did. It kind of like spooked me. And it might sound silly, but really, because I thought I had this vision of myself, like everyone does, right? You leave the night before, you're checking yourself out in the mirror, like, oh, dang, yeah. But then I would watch it back after like I'd had 8, 9, 15 drinks on the beach, and I'd be like, what the fuck? I look like that?
Yeah.
Again, lights are on, no one's home, and I was like, this isn't fun, man. Like, this isn't cool. It's not attractive. You're not, I aspire to be a role model to my future kids. I aspire to be a role model to, the next generation of pilots. I aspire to be a role model in my community and in my church. And I'm like, this isn't what a role model is. So after that show aired, I was like, yeah, this is not working with my life. So I pretty much cut it out cold turkey. It was really easy for me. I'm lucky to not have never had a problem with it. I don't like the taste of alcohol, any of it, wine, beer, hard alcohol. I don't like it. I just like getting drunk. So for me, it was pretty easy to just stop. And then I kind of got on this roll. I was waking up earlier. I was getting better sleep. I was looking better with my shirt off in the mirror. I was like, these are all positive wins, right?
Yeah.
As superficial as that may sound, I was like, I'm going to attract someone that, wants to be with someone who's healthy, who's fit. And I can kind of be more of like a protector too. I'm not drunk at the bar stumbling home. I can protect the person that I'm going to be with. And, I'm always there to answer a phone call. My head's always on straight. And, it's been only a couple months. I think the last drink I had was after a round of golf in March, with the boys. I was like, yeah, I'm going to have a celebratory beer. We won our tournament, and I had a beer with them, but haven't been drunk since the show, which aired filmed in June of 2023. So I haven't been drunk since June 2023, and pretty much haven't had more than a drink since the airing happened December of 2023.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah. I feel kind of, I don't want to say silly, but like I notice a lot of people that like addiction and sobriety is like their hardest and biggest accomplishment, and I'm so happy and proud of the people who have been able to overcome that. I wasn't that, so I don't want to make it seem like, oh, I quit drinking, look at me, and not like those people are doing that either. It's a super easy feat for me. It really is. I'm blessed to like not have that personality or not have that gene where I'm addicted to alcohol. So it's been super, super easy. But so I feel weird getting the congrats, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
But I do feel better. Most people would say I look better, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think so many people could benefit from cutting out alcohol. And like, I am sober, but I'm not someone that ever is like, oh, you shouldn't be drinking. Like, most of my best friends drink, most people in my life drink. I'm not weird about it at all. Like, I feel more comfortable just in mixed environments. I've actually, when it's funny enough, in New York there's like a sober scene, and I just like dip my toes in it. When I first came here, I first started my podcast, I started meeting people, and then it just like didn't feel right for me. Like, I like to have sober friends and have friends that drink and all of that. So I'm not in any way someone that's like, you should stop drinking, but the benefits are astounding. Like,
Very
the benefits
so
speak for themselves, that even if you don't have a drinking problem, like, you could just wake up earlier, you could just look 5% better, you could just get more out of your day, and definitely out of your emotions. Like, I do think that it's, again, the easy way out to connect with friends over drinking, or to have difficult conversations with friends, with partners, with dates, drinking, and then having to navigate that without alcohol. It's like, you really can do anything after that. But having to figure out that uncomfortableness, or just weeding through the feeling of, at first, like wanting to crawl out of your skin, the first random first date you go on without alcohol, or the first party, like hanging out with your friends and they're all drinking and you're not, that once you overcome that, then it just feels normal. It feels regular, and that it is that way for everyone. Essentially, I've never met someone that was like, oh, it was super, super easy to be the only one not drinking. But it really can add great health, and like mental health and physical health, to your life, because there is a lot of stuff that I'm seeing even coming out about the brain with alcohol, that it can lead to like early onset dementia and different forms of cancer, and just a lot of physical health ailments too. And a lot of people too, once, like, it's amazing for you that you only really drank, but so many people, the second they drink, then it's like, oh, I can have a smoke, I can do this. So it generally does lead to other negative habits as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, alcohol is a poison, period. There's nothing beneficial to drinking, period. There really isn't, like, period. There's no nutritional value. It's strictly a poison, so there's no other way around it. I mean, I don't want to get into the whole blue pill, red pill thing, but like, people are drinking because the people before them drank, and the people after us will drink too. Like, it's a brainwashed cult, like, throw it in your face world phenomenon that we just do because big markets tell you to do it, right? Like, I had this vision the other day, or probably a couple months ago, but like, the aliens look down, like, what do these people do? Like, everyone just goes out and drinks. Like, why do we go to a bar and just drink? Like, why is it that? Why is it not like everyone goes out and like plays checkers, or like everyone goes out and eats hot dogs? Like, why did we pick alcohol? You know, like, I don't have the answer of why we did it. I'm guessing because tax reasons and money, and there's always money behind it. Yeah. And it does make you feel good. Like, being drunk is kind of fun for a lot of people, but like, that's not all, but in a general scene in New York City is like, you go out Friday and Saturday night and you go to a bar and you drink. And you mentioned it earlier, I don't know if it was on camera or not, but the culture is shifting a little bit. People are getting smarter, and they're realizing that drinking is negative, right? Like, being drunk is fun, but everything else about it is negative. You mentioned the brain. You can talk about sleep. You can talk about financial. I go on dinner dates now, and my bill is half. especially here in New York. I mean, you
Yeah.
can attest to that. An alcoholic drink is anywhere from $15 to $33.
Yeah.
And you get two of those, you're at $60+, or you just get, I just eat two times the amount of steak now.
Yeah.
It's the greatest. I freaking love it. And my bill's
Yeah.
still cheaper than my friends that drink. But yeah, there's all these positives by cutting out alcohol. And I think people are catching on. And I think we're the first, again, this is my opinion, but with social media, we're like the first generation to be like, no, drinking sucks. Mm-hmm. It sucks. Like I'm in all these group chats and a couple of guys drink, a couple of guys don't drink. We're all pilots. And the ones that don't drink are like, dude, drinking fucking sucks, period. And they're like, we always tell the guys that are drinking, you're just trying to fill voids. All you're doing is filling voids by getting drunk. We fill our voids, or you do at least, and myself, with running, with other vices. But I would say running is cheaper and more beneficial to your mental and physical health than drinking is. So, it's a weird how humankind just gravitated towards drinking, but yeah, it fucking blows and it's bullshit.
Yeah. And I cannot agree more. And I'm going to go a little red pill for a second. Like, it is that just, first of all, the money is the thing that backs it. It's something that I do sales. Like, I love sales. I think selling stuff is great, but it's the easiest that, like, think of the first person that thought, I'm going to get into alcohol sales. It's something that once people have a sip, they generally have no control over. How many times, whether you have a drinking problem or you don't, do you hear someone, oh, I'm just going for one, buddy? And then, like, it's a meme, it's a video, it's a TikTok, it's been around forever. And then it's like, oh, me at 3 a.m. Well, how many drinks did you end up buying? You said you were going to buy one drink. It's literally, I can't even imagine how ecstatic the person who thought of alcohol sales was. Like, we can sell this and people can't get enough of it. And we're going to brand it in a way where it literally is a drug, but we're going to make you think it's glamorous. We're going to make you think that it is celebratory. We're going to make you think of it when you're sad. We're going to make you think of it when you get promoted. We're going to make you think of it when you get fired. Like, it is literally brain poisoning. And the fact that there are so many different categories, I mean, it is so smart when you think about it. Like, the champagne's for when you're happy and you're getting married, but then the whiskey's for when you're mature, and the martini's for when you're a glam girl, and when you're really sad, you'll have 12 natty lights with your broskies. Like, it's genius.
They've covered every single corner of the market. Like,
exactly. And then you think of it, and I've talked about this with so many girls on here, where the first thing you think of when you stop drinking as a girl is like, oh my God, I'm not going to have champagne on my wedding day. And now I'm like, that is wild that I would even want to.
Think that way.
First of all, think that.
Yeah.
But then want to have champagne on your wedding day. It's like, you wouldn't want to be fully present with your family and friends and the person you're marrying and all the money you invested into the wedding and all those people that came and showed up for you. Like, you wouldn't want to be 100% fully present for that. But it's basically just sold to us from when we're younger. And there are so many negative sides of social media. And you mentioned a bunch, the doom scrolling. Like, there's horrific sides to social media. But then the one positive is that people are waking up from seeing, like, there might be one little brain shift or one little spark from something they saw somewhere. And then you just start to think, like, why do I even drink? And I think that's something that everyone should think about. Drinking problem, no drinking problem, barely ever drink. Just think, why do I when I do? If I drink once a year, why do I have that drink once a year? And then you'll really start to uncover a lot about yourself and really your motives behind that. Because,
I mean, I mentioned it earlier, but I effing hate the taste of all alcohol.
Yeah.
I don't know many people who, like, I mean, people will say, oh, I love like a really good dirty martini, Blue Olives, whatever. I'm like, have you ever had Gatorade or like Sprite? Like, it's 5,000 times better. So you can't give me that as an excuse that that's the reason. So no, I love everything you just said. I haven't thought about it as deeply as you have, because it never, like, I'm not sober and I've never like cared to think about, but no, exactly what you said. Every corner of the market, every corner of the market is covered. They've engulfed everyone. Like, why is it that we cheer champagne when we have a baby or when you get married? Like, why is it that? Why is it not like let's do 10 push-ups. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, oh my God, your wedding day is today. Like, we should go run a mile. Let's celebrate. Let's celebrate with that. You know,
Yeah.
it's, and I agree with you and mentioned it as well that we're getting smarter. The world's shrinking even more in the sense of I can connect with you in this place and we can connect on social media because we have common interests and the algorithm brings it up, whatever. And yeah, alcohol fucking blows
Yeah.
and it's poison and it's bad for you. And I will never tell anyone to stop doing it. Like, you know, just like going to church, I'll never stop telling anyone to continue to go to church or to come to church, to each their own. But yeah, you said, why are you drinking? It's such a really important question. To answer for me, that I just asked myself the question while you were speaking, because everyone else was doing it. That's the reason. It's literally the reason. Right. And I would get on here and stand on the highest, tallest balcony and be like, oh, I'm not a conformist and I would never buy that Ed Hardy shirt. Everyone else is buying it. But there are obviously things that everyone conforms to. And one of them for me is definitely drinking. I drank in high school because everyone else was doing it. I drank in college because everyone else was doing it. After college in the city, I drank because everyone else was doing it. You know, I mean, I just got to last tangent. My friend just texted me on the way here. He's like, he moved out of the city 5 years ago. He's back visiting. He's like, does everyone play pickleball now and tennis? Like, I've never seen so many, all this gear and people are doing it because everyone else is doing it, you know? Like, so drinking, just whoever invented alcohol and the marketing behind it and the billions of dollars, you're in sales, so you can tell me the numbers better than I can, but the billions of dollars behind it, they own us. They own us, and drinking is what you do because that's what everyone else does.
Exactly. And they are some of the wealthiest families in the world globally, the people that own the few companies as well. When you go to the liquor store and you see all these millions of options, they're all owned by 2 or 3 companies and that's it.
Yep.
So it's just them rebranding it to you so that you think you have all these options, but it's the same
Still their
thing
money.
at the end of the day. But yeah, exactly. That I have thought very hard into it. It's all these runs. But yeah, I just think it became blatantly obvious just to see, I think in today's society, the widespread conformist thinking. You see it in politics. You see it in the way we behave, like not just the drinking, the cultural standards, the hookup standards, the hinge standards, the hey, what's up? Like just the way that everyone thinks like we're supposed to act. And then you actually ask someone like, oh, like why would I say that back to them, or why would I not communicate my feelings, or why? And it's just like, well, that's just the way it is. And it's like, who started
I know.
that's just the way it is. Like, and now I almost go in the other direction where it's like you look at society and what is the social norm and think like I would want to almost do the opposite of that, because it's almost that society as a whole is sick right now. Like a lot of, and the numbers are there, like more people are depressed than ever. More people would identify with having anxiety and having all these negative emotions. Well, it's like getting to the bottom of that. Why is it that it's the lowest rate of religion ever in human history? Is it that we're all doom scrolling our phones and we're in this confusing culture of you can't say this, you can't say that, you have to have this drink, and there's all these norms that actually were brought on us by the elitists, and now most of society is quite sick. And that's a major red pill.
Yeah, a major red pill for sure. Major.
But I heard you mention obviously like your breakups have had like a large impact on your mental health. How do you feel like you have gotten yourself over those, or like how do you feel like that really did impact you?
Yeah, I was always like really upset with myself because when I would get depressed and anxious after either I broke up with someone or they broke up with me or whatever happened, I was like, why am I feeling like this? Like I have it all, right? Like, so I'm blessed I don't have any, there's no, like, I remember one of my ex-girlfriends being like, you're like this, there must be something that happened to you when you're younger that you just don't want to talk about. I'm like, no, like I have like the picture perfect upbringing. My parents are still together, 40 plus years married, live in the same house I grew up in. I was given every opportunity to succeed in this world. Literally, silver spoon as far as, I worked my tail off to get to where I'm at, but like I've been blessed with every opportunity there is. And I was like, why do I always feel like this after either I let someone down or they let me down? And I could never put my finger on it. But the truth was, I think it was because I really never like loved myself. That was like that's kind of been like my awakening was I was never happy alone. I was an extreme extrovert, and going out, partying, hookup culture, I thrived on it. I thrived on the dating apps. I freaking loved being out the bars. I thrived in group settings. Like I freaking loved it. I go home on a Friday night or go home by myself after a Saturday night, and I'd be like down in the dumps. Like this, I couldn't be alone. And in that time, it was probably back in like 2022 now, when I went through my last bad breakup, I said, if nothing changes, dude. Like if you get back on the apps, you're just going to be back in this fucking vicious cycle. So that's when I did the crazy 180 of celibacy and gym workouts and eating better and church. And it was kind of weird at first because I was like, this isn't me. Like, why am I at a Bible study on a Thursday night when I could be out drinking and trying to hook up with another girl? But I stuck with it, and it really helped me to like learn more about myself, get more comfortable with myself, love myself more, realize that I am worth everything and more. I get comments all the time on social media, wow, this guy must really love himself. And I always respond with, I really do. I
love that.
I really do love myself.
Yeah.
And I pray that you can get to a point where you do too, because everyone deserves it. And I went through the emotional and mental pain of not loving myself. If you had written that comment to me 3 years ago, I'd been like, you're right. I fucking hate myself. I don't like this life that I'm living and leading. Yeah. But with a lot of hard work and discipline and motivation and luck, but a lot of hard work, like I mentioned, I've gotten to a place that I do love myself. I value my alone time. And it's gotten me to a great place.
That's amazing. And it really does speak volumes for the things that are easy. Again, just it's a pattern, are not the things that actually will fulfill us in the end. And there's a difference between being happy right now and that chasing happiness.
Yeah.
I think chasing dopamine is what often, because I mean, feeling that dopamine high is amazing. That's why everyone wants to feel it, and you can feel it a lot quicker by living life the way you initially were. But then when you actually search for long-term fulfillment, you don't get those highs as quick. You're not getting it every night. Like it might be more of a long-term goal where it's months and months of hard work to get to that place where you actually are happy with the outcome. But generally that is when it actually will fulfill you, rather than just being there for a second and then leaving you with the lowest of lows. Because it's easy when we look at like depressants like alcohol or drugs or anything of that nature that give you that high and then rip it away and then you're depressed the next day. But emotions and people and external factors that aren't linked to drugs can do the same for you with your dopamine levels. And really being able to figure that out, I think is hard. And I've seen a lot recently on I might butcher this, it's either type 2 fun, or I think it's type 2 fun. It's something 2 fun would be like the running, the working out. It's something that like anyone can drink, but not everyone can go for a 10-mile run. Not everyone can go to the gym first thing in the morning. So it's something that actually fulfills you when you're done. So it might not feel the best when you're like doing track repeats or bench pressing your hardest weight, but in the end, you're going to feel a lot better than you did if you went out drinking. And I think the same too with like dating, like putting time into a relationship or getting that commitment would be a lot more beneficial than just having a random person for the night.
100%. No,
but
definitely.
actually like recognizing, I think it's the same thing with drinking. Like I have friends that that stuff doesn't affect them. And then I know people that it very much does. Like, I can't do that. I'm not someone like it. To me, it's not fun to go on a bunch of random first dates on Hinge. Like, that's a waste of time and just not fun. And I have seen too where sometimes we can link our self-worth to like the feedback from someone you just met on Hinge or for the night, or someone you really don't even know. And it is just reaffirming, like, if you're in a place that you don't love yourself and you're just trying to either reaffirm the pattern that, oh, I am not worth it, when you're with someone for the night and they leave, and then you just are reaffirming those negative thought patterns, or trying to externally get that validation just to be left in the exact same spot. So at the end of the day, like, you're the only person that can get yourself out of those patterns and situations.
No, I went through that's exactly what I was doing. I was just getting that validation from a stranger, and kind of I was succeeding in the hookup culture or whatever however you want to call it, and I was like, oh look, I still I still got it.
Yeah.
And I just because she left me or she cheated on me and we're no longer in a relationship, and I went out to try to like fulfill that void. And it just left me so empty and miserable. And no, you said it perfectly. That's exactly what it is. You have to do the work. And at first it sucked because I was like, this is so lame. Like, why am I at the gym on Friday night? Like, why am I running on the track on Saturday nights? Like, why am I not partying? Why am I not whatever? But you stick with it, you find your purpose, and you start compounding those wins. It really adds up, and it adds up quick. And you look back, I remember hearing something where it's like, if you just tried something, whether it's in business, in life, relationships, whatever it is, for just 1 year, because like when you say to yourself, whoa, 1 year, it sounds like such a long time, but in the macro, 1 year is nothing. Like, everyone goes like the summer's over, right? It's July, whatever, when we're filming this right now, but like, we're gonna blink and we're gonna be like miserably cold, and like New York City's gonna be depressed with the winter blues or whatever. Like, life goes by so freaking quick. 1 year is nothing. So that's why I told myself, I'm going to give myself a year when I'm bored or feel stupid in Bible class or miserable on a Friday night at the gym, and I'm like, just do it for a year. And if you're like, still feel like this, go back to your old ways. Yep. But within months, definitely with more quicker than a year, I was like, this is awesome, and it's crazy if you put in the work and you have the discipline, what you can accomplish.
I think that's a great mindset, that just try it and you can always go back, because it's exactly like taking that first step to the gym or on a run. Like, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to regret it. For me, 10 times out of 10, I don't regret it. So just try it, and you can always go back to your old ways. If you do feel like that bar culture and whatever you were doing before, the escapades were fulfilling.
They'll always be there.
It's not going away. That world's going to be there, even if people are waking up and more people are becoming super curious or deciding to cut alcohol out completely, out less, whatever it may be. That culture is always going to be there. So you can always go back, but just give it a try, and you have to navigate it for yourself, what works best. But this life certainly works a lot better for me, and I'm glad that it's working for you.
Same, absolutely.
What would you tell someone out there, another man that felt like they were really struggling and didn't know where to turn or what to do?
I would first, I always start from the top. So I would, if this man had any sort of faith background or belief, I would start with that, whatever his higher power is. So, start in the church, start with God, just start talk to God. I call it prayer, but you can literally just, no microphone needed, and just talk, right? And he'll listen. I firmly and wholeheartedly believe that. Next down the ladder, at least for me in my life, are my biggest role models and the people closest to me, my parents. I reach out to my parents. Again, this is my way of thinking. I know not everyone has this ability. Then close friends, silly as it sounds, social media. I mean, like people are out there that will help. I know I won't mention them unless you want to, but I know there's a super popular, pretty big figure that you had on your podcast, and I know he answers his DMs about that stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And as crazy as that may sound, I mean, I answer every single one of my DMs, every single one. It might take me a while to get back to them. Some of them are bots that are annoying as shit, but or asking for feet pics. But if the price is right, I'm there. But no, in all seriousness, yeah, I said start at the highest kind of ladder, for lack of a better term, and work your way down. Again, like therapy, not everyone can afford a therapist. But know that help is out there, whether it's myself or Maddie or someone is out there that's willing to listen, and I think that's really powerful to know that it might feel like no one's there to listen, and maybe your friends don't want to hear about your depression, and maybe you don't have parents that you can talk to and rely on. Maybe you don't have distant cousins that you have their number that you can cry to, but I promise you that there's someone in your town, in your city, in your country, or even, as silly as it sounds, but social media does have positives, and one of them is like reach out to someone and just know that it's gonna be okay. It is okay, and there are people out there that are willing to listen and to do their best to kind of get you through that rut and that dark place that you're in. And the last thing I'll say is, we'll figure this out, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Maybe our helper can Google the is it 989 for the suicide prevention. We're getting a yes. So I think it's super important to know that number, because if you're going to talk about mental health, the deepest form of 988. Thank you. So there you go. 988 is the new suicide prevention hotline number. I think they changed it over a couple months ago. You got 911, you got 988. So if you're feeling that low, give that phone, there's well-trained professionals on the other line that are literally, their job is to talk to you, and they want to.
Yeah.
They're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. Like they're not there to like judge you or make fun of you or whatever, but that's kind of the steps I go through in my own mental health journey when I'm feeling depressed or lonely or sad. Is I start at the top with God, and then I work my way down. I might need to hear feedback. So God, even though he's the most powerful in my life and I put him first, I might need to hear my dad give me a pep talk. I might need to hear my mom give me some comforting words. My best friend tell me something that like, hey, you can do this. My sister, go down the ladder, and then fortunately, I've never had to make the phone call to 988, but it's a resource.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. Always reach out to the people in your life, and sometimes God may end up speaking through somebody else in your life, which is always huge. But shout out Jersey Jerry.
Jersey Jerry, let's go.
He's always there to help people, and really is one of the realest people I've ever met, that he practices what he preaches. He's always there to help people. If you reach out to me, I'm always there in a way where even if I can't offer help, I'll try to offer a resource. Oh, I have this person or that person that might be better suited for this situation to help you.
Yeah.
But people are out there to help you. I think that's absolutely fantastic advice. And thank you so much for coming on and getting real with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. And I really appreciate everything that you're doing, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. You too. I think you're a great role model for people getting into becoming a pilot, men all over, and just human beings in general. But I definitely think, especially in your industry, that exactly what you said, there are people that struggle, even though it is an industry that shies away from mental health, that you are a resource and you are there to show that you can show up and you still can be amazing, and it's okay to struggle and be doing your job phenomenally at the same time.
Absolutely.
It's not one or the other.
Strong men need help too, right?
Yes.